Ladies and gentlemen, let me open a series of joint public hearings for the City Council of the City of Pearland and the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Pearland. And at this point, I'd like to ask Martin to give us some guidance on the procedures that we are required to use and some information that would be useful to all of us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome. Can you hear me now? Sorry, anybody, that's not my...
All you need is a mic you can handle, huh?
Yeah. Okay. All right. For tonight's joint public hearing, we will have one zone case, 3 CUPs. Afterwards, we'll have a workshop for a potential plan development coming in, and then a special meeting to discuss UDC amendments. Each item has a public hearing conducted as follows. There will be a call to order, followed by the staff report, applicant presentation, then public comments either in support or in opposition to. Please come forward to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record. Please be brief and to the point within a 3-minute time frame, and then complete a public speaker's card and give that to the recording secretary at the end of the front row here. Then there will be council, commission, and staff discussion, followed by an adjournment for each joint public hearing item. After the joint public hearings, Planning and Zoning Commission will hold their regular meeting tonight after the public hearings later this evening to vote on their recommendation. Speaking of the P&Z meeting is at the P&Z's discretion. Council meeting dates for the first and second considerations are August 14th and August 28th.
That information, let me add a couple of items. That is, no decision will be made during this process of joint public hearing process. Meetings will be held, obtained, and decisions will be made later after this meeting is completed. And also, if you want to speak, be sure we decided this is a lavender form. We're not sure whether it's grape or lavender, but whatever your choice is, please fill it out if you want to speak either in opposition or support or in opposition to. And with that information, be sure if you go to the podium, speak into the podium, give us your name and address, and please try to confine it to about 3 minutes, because I think if you do focus on that, you can pretty well present your viewpoint within a 3-minute or 4-minute time frame. That information in the record. Let's then move. And one of the other things I want to mention is I will open each joint public hearing with a gavel, and I'll close it with a gavel. And we have 4 public hearings tonight, and they will be in succession. So let me open a joint public hearing for zone change 17-0004. Ask the chairman of the Planning Commission to read into the record the purpose of this hearing tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request of Method Architecture represented by Samuel Hero, applicant on behalf of Presidio Equities, LLC, owner, represented by Bobby Orr, for approval of a change in zoning from a light industrial M1 to a planned development PD zoning district on approximately 18.6542 acres of land. The general location is approximately 18 acres at the southwest corner of Rice Dryer Road and North Main Street, State Highway 35, with the address of 1916 North Main Street.
Okay. Just a question to everybody. Can you hear pretty well? John, can you hear pretty well back there? Okay, just want to make sure that there's good hearing. We're not in the city council chamber, so we want to make sure that you're able to participate. That information in the record. Let's move to item 3 on our agenda. Application information, case summary, staff report.
All right, this is the staff report for plan development, zone 17-00004. This is a request for a plan development with base zoning district of M1 and GC, light industrial, general commercial, for vacant property that has been zoned light industrial since annexation in 1960. Commercial development is proposed for the front portion of the property along State Highway 35 with industrial development towards the rear. Development is proposed in 2 phases, and the applicant had a workshop earlier this year in March for this development. This is the aerial map. Generally, the phase line would split right here with the commercial here and the industrial portion located in the back. This is the zoning map currently showing M1 light industrial for the whole property. This is the future land use plan map showing industrial and public semi-public. Note the public semi-public, that should actually be the PISD property in the south. We recognize that there is currently an error in the future land use map that doesn't make sense with this property. This is the proposed site plan showing where the commercial and where the light industrial properties would be, and showing the retention pond in the back. This is kind of a more detailed plan showing the enhanced landscaping that they're proposing for the phase 1 portion. And then this is zoomed in for phase 2. This is a rendering of the commercial portion. You notice the transparency. This would face into the property. This is one of the points that I'll talk about where the transparency would normally be required against the State Highway 35 frontage, but instead they're proposing it on the main portion of the building. This is a rendering of the industrial buildings at the rear. This is a current view looking north. This is a current view looking east. This is a current view looking south. More towards the back of the property. Staff has not received any return notices. We have had one phone call that came in later this afternoon, just asking some general questions about the proposed rezoning. General overview of our codes. The comprehensive plan, as I mentioned, has this as light industrial property. It does have the public semi-public, but again, that is meant for the PISD property to the south. The thoroughfare plan, we're not looking for any more width on 35, and Rice Dryer is sufficient width as well. The Unified Development Code, this is generally consistent with what the UDC would state, with some exceptions, as I mentioned, where the transparencies switch from the 35 side to the interior will not. Plating is required, and we have not gone through plating yet. So that is one step that they will be carrying forward with, should everything go through. And the utilities are sufficient for this site. This is the criteria for a planned development. Some of the things to note are conformance with the comprehensive plan, having the result of this planned development come through provide a superior development as opposed to the base Unified Development Code. Generally being consistent with the City of Pearland's utility plans for this site. And one thing that is that will be enhanced definitely is the drainage, which I'll talk about that on the next slide. Staff recommends approval of the requested change in zoning on the approximate 18.6542 acre site for the following reasons. These are up here for review to read, so I'll hit the highlights of it. The proposal offers a symbiotic mixture of uses between phase 1 and phase 2. It's meant for a higher, more industrial type of commercial activity, like contractors' offices or plumbers' warehouses or things of that nature, to coincide with the industrial uses towards the rear. This land does have significant character to it. As you were well aware, it has the old rice dryer silos that are on the property adjacent to it. So it is in the community's best interest to encourage quality development and through flexible design plans when the property owner is looking to develop this property. The proposed change, as I mentioned, is generally in conformance with the future land use map. And also it would be in conformance with the State Highway 35 redevelopment plan that was passed last year. As I mentioned before, this will have a superior facade detail where we move the requirements from the corridor overlay district, which this portion of State Highway 35 is in the corridor overlay, from that facing side to the interior of the property. Also in phase 2, the buildings will have a minimum 25% masonry facade. As far as screening is concerned, there will be some screening, or there will be some outdoor storage areas, which the screening will be on the phase 1 portion for those areas. One of the criteria factors is whether this use or the proposed uses will be compatible with adjacent uses. These will have kind of a similar intensity to the surrounding properties. And last, the site plan proposes 33.62% open space over both phases. So it'll be much higher than the required 15% open space from the corridor overlay district. Another benefit to this PD is that it includes a use table which combines some conditional use, such as a metal shop or a grant contractor, which would require further council action. By permitting that by right through the use table, it's eliminating the need for the property owner or future property tenants to come back to the city council to go through a conditional use permit process. Lastly, this is going through a public-private partnership with the Pearland EDC for improvements to their drainage facility, sharing the detention and possible improvements to Rice Strider Road. So this will greatly be a benefit to that area. That concludes staff's report.
Okay. That information is the record. Let's move to item B on our collective. I'm using the same agenda that you have. Item B is applicant presentation. Is the applicant here and would like to make a presentation?
Here.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me. My name is Ryan Taff. I'm with Orr Commercial. Apologize, Bobby, we're not making it here tonight. But I've worked with Bobby for 12 years. We've owned this property since 2011. We actually developed a center across the street where Church's Chicken currently is. Don't own it anymore. That's kind of how we came across this property. We've been working real hard with Martin and his team to develop this plan. We think it's a nice addition to the area. It kind of complements what's already been going on there, and it's going on across the street. And I think Martin did a great job of explaining what we're trying to do. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I appreciate those comments. Thank you. We don't plan to dialogue with you. Thank you. Appreciate those comments. Thank you. Moving to item number C. Staff have any wrap-up comments at this point?
No, sir.
None. Okay. Moving in our agenda at item 4, which is persons wishing to speak for or against the proposed request. Have you filled out one of these cards? Good. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Glenn. I'm the...
See if it, yeah. That doesn't do it, does it?
My name is Paul Glenn. I'm the Human Resources Manager for Third Coast Terminals. So this is a little bit out of my bailiwick, so be patient with me. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. I'm here on behalf of Third Coast to protest the rezoning of the property that we've just discussed. Before I go into our reasons for protest, I want to give you a little bit of background on Third Coast. Third Coast is a chemical manufacturing, storage, logistics business at 1871 McCalla. We're just across the railroad tracks from these properties. We started in 1989 and have continued to grow since that start in 1989. And our McCalla facility now is about 60 acres with about 170 storage tanks, rail for 100 rail cars, more than 200,000 square feet of warehouse space. We employ a little under 200 people. 51 of those are residents of the city of Pearland. So even in a challenging petrochemical environment, Third Coast has continued to grow and has invested significant funds into this property. In fact, we were named one of Pearland's leading employers by the Economic Development Corporation. As a chemical manufacturer and process facility, Third Coast is subject to a number of regulatory and administrative processes to ensure the safe operation. This is mostly done through the permitting process, which allows Third Coast to operate. When Third Coast obtains a new or modifies the permit, it must describe the properties that surround the property seeking the permit. Just as Third Coast wouldn't want to put a chemical plant in the middle of the town square, we would prefer that our neighbors be restricted to placing non-industrial businesses next to our chemical facility. We've made an enormous investment in the Pearland facility, and we have plans to make more in that facility, which will continue to bring economic growth and well-paid jobs to the Pearland area. Rezoning the properties here to planned development would hamper Third Coast's ability to continue its safe but heavy regulated business at the McCalla location. The one example that I would like to give to you is Pearland Elite, which is a gymnastics center. It's 696 feet from our property. It doesn't currently restrict us from receiving a permit. Anything within 500 feet is going to restrict us from receiving a permit, or if we reevaluate this permit, tell us that we can no longer handle that product and we'll have to lay people off. So our concern is that as it continues, I get it, it's light industrial. Light industrial today is broad-scale. Light industrial today is kids' gymnastics. That's the part that scares us. On behalf of Third Coast and its management, we request the City and the Planning and Zoning Commission reject this application and rezone these properties. Thanks for your time. Do you have any questions for me?
Nope. We don't dialogue with you at this point. Thank you.
Great.
You can leave your form with one of the staff members. Yeah. One right there next to you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to enter into the record a comment or statement regarding this proposed zone change? Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to enter into the record a comment or statement regarding this proposed zone change? The third and final time for the purpose of the record before we move forward in the agenda, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to enter into the record a comment or statement regarding this proposed zone change for this particular operation, which is zone 170004? And hearing none, let me move down to an opportunity for council, planning and zoning, and the staff to make any further comments we have at this point. Starting with Councilmember Carbone.
Thank you, Mayor. I can appreciate Third Coast's concern. I guess when I'm looking at this, right now the current property is zoned M1. And so there's a lot of uses that could be built right there, right now, without any oversight and public input. I guess what I would ask, and looking at the site plan, and the applicant has some uses outlined, I think what might make sense, and again, maybe the applicant can get with Third Coast, is would it be possible to limit the uses to a few of the buildings that are in, say, that 500-foot buffer? If we were to specifically make it compatible so that use can't go in there that would affect your permit, I think that could potentially give you better protections than you have just right now with raw M1 dirt. So I don't know if staff's, first of all, I don't know if we've heard any objections up to this point to even have the conversation. I'm glad both parties are in the room. I would hope that y'all could hopefully get to a conclusion that would work for both parties. So I think it would be the benefit, because it's going to develop at some point, and having some input now might be beneficial for both sides. Besides that, we saw this at a workshop. Looks good, still looks good, and I think it'll be a good catalyst for that area. That's all, Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a good development for this corridor, as we're trying to spawn development on here to make this corridor a better place and spawn other development along that corridor. This is a nice project, and I think it'd do well there. I also would like to see how we can work with Third Coast in reference to their permit, but I think this is a good project for this piece of ground.
Please report, Councilmember Reed.
No comment, Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Arco.
Yeah, I'm still looking for the button to turn the mic on. I was kind of shocked. I honestly hadn't looked at what was permitted in M1 and M2, and it is interesting. Some of the items, martial arts school, trade school, so might be something to look at some point. I just never really honestly looked into that, but what we've seen I like. I think it does fit in that area. And I'll agree with Councilmember Carbone. Hopefully the two can get together and work something out that's mutually beneficial.
Councilmember Little.
No comment, Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Perez.
I have an existing business relationship with the consultant for this project. For that reason, I'll be recusing myself from decisions on this project.
Owens.
Mayor, I think the most has been said already on that development. I think it is a good development. My only concern was what brought up with Paul Glenn on the Third Coast on the future permits, if that's needed. So I'll just echo what the other two council members said on there, trying to work together to do something on that as far as the permitting it, and not to deter them from being able to increase later on. That's all I have.
That completes your report? Okay. Why don't we move to the planning commission, Mr. Chairman?
No, for me, it's more of a question for staff, is that don't the risks to the neighboring business exist whether or not this change is made?
The risk as in?
As in future permits and potential for their business? And,
Correct.
okay.
In, you put it there, there's plenty of mics. I guess one of the uses I quickly looked at through there, one was a public auditorium in M1. There are other uses that might affect a permit, and I was kind of shocked that this hasn't been looked at before. If anything that's developed there, they're going to have to take action on their property to protect Third Coast and their permitting. So those two property owners need to get together in the way I see it. Anyway, I like the development. I've liked it all along. I think it's a good development for that area. That's all I got, Mayor.
Okay. Planning Commission report.
Yes, sir.
Staff have any wrap-up comments this morning?
No, sir.
No wrap-up, good. Let me adjourn this standalone document public hearing without zone change 170004. And in a like manner, let me gavel open a meeting. For a CUP 170002, ask the chairman of the planning commission read into the record the permanent person of the hearing tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request of Capital Construction Management represented by Michael Seery, applicant on behalf of Adam and Malik Developer, LLC, owner, for approval of a conditional use permit, CUP, to allow for a gasoline station in the general business GB zoning district on approximately 2.0535 acres of land, general location 3201 Pearland Parkway.
Okay. That information in the record. Let's move to item 3 on our collective agendas, which start out with the staff report for application information case summary. A is staff report.
All right. This is for CUP 17-00002, 3201 Pearland Parkway. Again, this is for a gasoline station in the business zoning district. Property has been vacant since annexation into the 1960s. Site shows 10 fueling stations and a 6,500 square foot convenience store with future space for a retailer with a drive-through facility. The site layout also reserves space for another building 2 for future development. The surrounding area has developed as residential, and Pearland Parkway, all properties along the Parkway are zoned for commercial development. This is the aerial map and the outline of the proposed property. This is the zoning map showing general business. This is the future land use plan showing retail offices and services. This is the gasoline station buffer map. As you can see, there are 5 stations within a mile, another 3 within a half mile, and then another 8 within the 2-mile buffer from the subject property. This is the site plan. This is the rendering of the convenience store with the drive-through on your right-hand side. This is the view looking north. This is the view looking east. This is the view looking south. And this is the view looking west. Staff has received 1 return notice in opposition of the development. There have been no phone calls in support or in opposition of the proposed gas station. Generally, the comprehensive plan is in conformity with this proposed project, being future retail offices and services. The thoroughfare plan is also in conformity with a sufficient width on Pearland Parkway. And then John Leiser Road is a major collector to eventually be widened. The Unified Development Code has this as general business, and the submitted site plan is missing some information that would be required by the corridor overlay district that's outlined in your packet. Plating is currently being dealt with. I think this went through the plating process a month or 2 ago, and they're working on getting all of the signatures on the plat. And the utilities are sufficient for the site. Again, this is the criteria for approval of a conditional use permit. Generally speaking about the consistency with the comprehensive plan, the general purpose and intent of the general business zoning district, whether the use mitigates development related to any adverse impacts, if it provides some visual screening to minimize any additional impact, and if it meets the standards of the zoning district. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit on the 2.5037 acre site for the following reasons. It's the retail offices and services category of the comprehensive plan. This will be the 9th gas station within a mile and a half buffer, as you saw within the buffer map, and proposed 17th within a 2-mile radius. The proposed use generally meets the standards of the general business zoning district and the corridor overlay. We're proposing some conditions that I will go over here in just a minute. And the proposed use incorporates features to minimize the adverse effects of the use. So the list on this page discusses things that need to be added to the site to meet the corridor overlay district. These are all as per the Unified Development Code, so there's nothing in extra that staff is requesting that gets added onto the site plan. It involves trees within the buffer, screening of mechanical equipment, adding in bicycle parking, showing the minimum width of the sidewalk is 6 feet, having, stand corrected, the exterior lights is the one condition that is in addition to what staff would normally have within the Unified Development Code. And that was similar to the exterior lights that we discussed last month. In fact, it is word for word the exact same. The exterior light shall be located so as to not produce direct illumination across the boundary property line, and have all outside lights comprised of a light source and a reflector selected so that acting together spillover is controlled and not directed across the boundary property line above a height of 3 feet. So I do stand corrected, that is. And then to provide trees within the landscape island so that no parking space is greater than 50 feet away from a tree. And then to address the comments from Public Works and the Fire Marshal, which are included in the staff package. The last recommendation is to have the driveway spacing moved along John Miser, as it does not currently meet the engineering design criteria manual. That manual has a minimum spacing of 200 feet, which would need to be moved so that way it meets the engineering spec. If the commission chooses to consider approval of this request, staff recommends approval of the request with conditions that were outlined. And then the applicant would need to submit a revised site plan for review prior to the first reading by City Council that addresses the site comments as identified in the staff report. So that would go back before the Development Review Committee to make sure that everything had been taken care of.
Good, I appreciate it.
The staff's report.
That information on the record. Let's move to 3B, which will let the applicant make a presentation if you're here tonight. Is the applicant? Yeah, yes, please come up. And thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, y'all. It's nice to be here, and we are definitely honored to try to get this facility built. One thing that we wanted to do is provide an upscale, not just gas station, but also a retail center and national brands, QSR attached to our retail center. The Pearland Parkway and John Miser Road, we have a 30-foot setback with upgraded landscaping, and also the 6 feet sidewalks will be emphasized. The retail center is, and the gas station is a total of 6,500 square feet with a phase 2 of another 4,000 square feet of future retail center. The future retail center, we're looking to put national franchise leases in that area. The La Petite brand is already in Pearland, and we currently have a store off of Scarsdale and Blackhawk with an Allstate agency attached to it. They currently fits kind of the criteria of what we're trying to do in the new location with the size of the retail center and the gas station going together. We plan to have an Exxon with 5 MPDs, and with the layout that we have, we provide a space for the reviewing and trucking to come in and come out relatively easy off the main thoroughfares. The canopy will be wrapped with the matching exterior facade of brick and stucco with a large glass door frontage and giving a good visibility on both John Weiser and Pearland Parkway. The detention pond that is going to be located in the back, we place it there to get in off the general site from the street and John Weiser and Pearland Parkway, but it will also be fenced and for safety and hazardous reasons as well. Currently, we are looking forward to getting this project started, and for the different recommendations that you stated earlier, we will update our site plan and make sure that we cover all the different aspects, and there's no problem with that, and I don't see that that would be any issue at all. Is there any other questions or comments?
These sessions are recorded. I'd like for the recorder to know who spoke. Would you please give us your name and address?
My name is Michael Seery. I'm with Capital Construction Management. I'm a construction and also a property management company, and we develop small retail properties all around the Pearland, and I'm representing the owners, Adam and Malik Developers, LLC.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your comments. Moving in our agenda to item number 3C, staff have any wrap-up comments at this point that needs to be clarified?
No, sir.
Move down to our agenda item 4, which would let persons wish to speak for or against have an opportunity to make a presentation. Is there anyone like to, at this point, like to enter into the record a comment or statement regarding this proposed request for CUP? Is there?
Just kind of, you got something, man.
Are you coming up to speak? Okay. And you filled out one of these forms too, didn't you? Okay. I'll let you speak if you fill out a form when you get through.
I promise.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Brown, and my address is 2924 Green Tea Drive in Pearland. I would have to start in opposing this, only because I know they've done a lot of detail and had a lot of work with this, and it looks beautiful. But I have the adjacent property next to it, and it is zoned residential. And it could be a problem later on. I don't know all the details of this plan, and I haven't seen any of it. But hopefully I can, and hopefully the lighting. I worry about the lighting and the development of the residential. I know gas stations are normally open a lot. They're open Could be all night, could be, maybe they close at 10, I just don't know their proposal. So that's, I would just have to say that I am opposed. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Would you pick up a form over here, this lady, at this point? And anyone else who wants to speak in the future, be sure to fill out one of these forms, and would our staff hold up a form so they know where you are? Would you stick up a form so they know where you are, pick up one if they need one? Okay. Just want to clarify that. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to enter into the record a comment, statement, or testimony regarding this proposed request, zone request? Well, the third and final time for the purpose of the record before I move forward in the agenda, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to enter into the record a comment, statement, or testimony regarding this proposed request for a CUP zone change? And hearing none, let's move then to item number 5, which will let the Council, Planning Commission, and staff tune in on their concerns or questions. Starting with Councilmember Owens, would you have a comment or statement?
Just a quick statement. This piece of property has been looked at for several years. Different things are looking at coming into it. I think at one time it was a event center that was going in, and it backs right up to the Mary's Creek area through there, and that was one of the things that they had a problem with on that. The other thing that they had a problem with during that period of time was that there's a lot of large protected trees on that piece of property, and from the development in the past that looked at it, all those trees would have to be cleared out, and then they were moving in about a 1-inch caliber tree, which it'd take them 30 to 40 years to get back up the size of the ones that was already there. So, this has been a few years ago. I don't know if it's still in play or not, or something to look at, but that was one of the concerns. And so everything that was tried to develop there, the way that it would have to be selective in placing the building and the facilities there, it was very detrimental in order to build anything on that piece of property. And I think the only thing that came close to it was an event center, but the property was so costly that they couldn't do it. So that's the only thing that I would be concerned about. Is it looks like that would be just completely clearing the property over there of those trees and what have you. So, but that's the only thing I've got.
Councilor Perez?
Thank you, Mayor. With respect to the use, I think I'm fine with the use. Humming at me. I'm fine with the use, and I'll be okay with the CUP. What did I do?
If you can get the microphone to work, huh?
I think so.
You're loud enough they can hear you.
Probably so. I think I'll be fine with the use, and I'll approve the CUP, but I kind of agree with staff. The driveway on John Lizer is going to be an issue. Y'all got to work on that. I'll leave it to the engineering staff to make the best judgment, but again, there's some things you got to consider. The tree mitigation, your detention looks a little tight. So by virtue of us, or my approving the use does not mean I approve the project as is. So just work with our staff, make sure that we get a development that conforms with our EDC, or UDC, or EDCM, all of the criteria we have in place. But with respect to the use, I'm fine with it.
Little?
I don't have any problem with the use. I think it's a good location. It meets all the criteria. Obviously, Ms. Brown has some concerns about the lights from the business, but I think if they meet the requirements of the permit, then the lighting should be fine. So I'm okay with it.
No further comments, Mayor.
Reed?
No comments, Mayor.
Moore?
Just real quick, like Councilman Little said, that's why we have the UDC to help with those lighting issues, which with this being a gas station that coming before us for a conditional use permit, so we will be looking at that and asking those types of questions as we come to the first reading and second reading if it makes it that far. But we will take care of any of the lighting stuff. Without this being a gas station, this is already zoned general business, so there could be multiple other things there that could create the same type of issue where it's not going to come to council to have some of those inputs that we'd provide. So just to let you know, Ms. Brown.
Councilor Carbone?
No further comment, Mayor.
No comments? Okay. I guess one of the concerns I have is we don't want to become a city of that's known as liquor store junction and filling station junction, because we're getting an unusual number of both of those proliferating in our city. That information in the record. Let's move to a planning commission. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I mean, as I understand it, the reason gas stations are on the CUP is so we can help manage the density.
Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I understand that the reason gas stations are within the CUP process is that we can help manage the density. So if I'm mistaken on that, somebody please let me know. But even if that's the case, when I look at the map, it doesn't look like there's a proliferation, at least in that area, so I would be supportive of it.
I'll kind of echo David's statement. I mean, I thought that was really the reason why this was even coming to a CUP, is that so we could, you know, mitigate the number of gas stations. I mean, 5 within a mile, and there's 17 within 2 miles, I think, is proliferation. So if we want to be gas stations, master stores, and liquor stores, it's just kind of following that pattern.
I guess to follow in Woody's comments, I actually looked at the tree study that was done on that. There's over 800 caliper inches of trees on that one piece of property. The trees that are presented in the layout represent probably 2 to 3 of the largest trees on that property in equal. So we're talking clear cutting the property, use of one old growth tree to put in basically another gas station. There's nothing special here about it. It's just another gas station that's typical within 2 mile radius of the property. I drive by 3 gas stations going to work before I get to this property, and a couple after that within the city of Pearland, and I really don't want to look at another gas station in the area. One of the staff comments was that although it may be a compatible use, I do not believe it preserves the character of the area and the integrity of the adjacent development, seeing as the nearest largest adjacent development will be the city park, which we haven't seen yet. So the future use for this property might not even be realized yet until the park's done. My vote will be a no on this one.
Okay. Does that complete your report?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Let's always remember this is not a build condition now, it's only a zone change condition. So the building aspect of it has yet to come. So we're just changing the zoning request. So you have to be really careful how you project it too far into the future. So that information in the record. Does staff have any wrap-up comments at this point?
Yes, sir.
And at this point, I'm going to move to item 6. Let me adjourn this standalone document public hearing, and in a like manner, open a standalone document public hearing for zone permit CUP 170003. Ask the chairman of the Planning Commission to read into the record the purpose of this hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request of Hiram Desai, applicant on behalf of Danya LLC, owner, represented by M.J. Javadi, managing member, for approval of a conditional use permit CUP to allow for a liquor package store in the general commercial GC zoning district on approximately 6.4224 acres of land. General location is 2530 East Broadway Street.
Thank you, John, for changing the configuration of our speaker at the podium. Thank you. It was a bad angle, and most everybody has been to the podium so far has been tall, long, tall guys, or ladies, young ladies, and have to kind of stoop down to talk. So now we can talk standing up. That information in the record. Let us move to item 3 on our agenda, which is the application information, case summary, staff report.
John's just making sure I don't get a crick in my neck.
I like it. You don't get a crick in your neck, don't you? Okay.
All right, this is for CUP 17-00003, located at 2530 East Broadway Street. The property is developed as a shopping center since 1979. It was zoned commercial when it was annexed in 1960 and designated general commercial with ordinance 509, which was the land use ordinance. The proposed use would go into a 2,650 square foot suite, and then it would be kind of a retail use similar to a convenience store, along with the liquor package store, that would have products that, in addition to, which would be similar to a convenience store. This is the aerial map. You can see on Broadway and Drive. This is the zoning map showing general commercial for the subject property. This is the future land use map showing retail offices and services. And then this is the new liquor package store buffer map showing what is approved, what's pending, and what has been applied for but has not come to joint public hearing yet. So as you can see, the two that are across the street from each other on Broadway, the one on Main Street, the current site, and then in the HEB Center, we have one that will come next month. This is the site plan for their proposed suite. This is a view looking north. This is a view looking east. This is a view looking south. And this is a view looking west. Staff has not received any return notices or phone calls in support or opposition to this proposed conditional use permit. For the criteria conformance table, we're generally looking at a positive across the board. A comprehensive plan for retail offices and services. It has sufficient width along both Broadway, or Broadway's to be widened, and then sufficient width on Liberty, and then meets the general commercial intent. The property is already platted, and it has sufficient utilities to serve the use. Again, this is the criteria for approval for a conditional use permit. And staff recommends approval of the requested CUP for the packaged liquor store on the approximate 6.4224 acre site for the following reasons. It generally meets the retail offices and services category within the comprehensive plan. It is consistent with the general commercial. The parcel is accompanied by other commercial properties and similar uses and sizes and intensity on Broadway Street, and it's buffered from the single-family residential development by both retail and the library on the south. Location is near an entrance to a residential neighborhood, but it's buffered by civic uses. The use is one of many within a shopping center, which would prohibit or help to limit any advertising or adverse effects. The proposed use of the liquor package store would not generate pedestrian or vehicular traffic, which would be in conflict with the neighborhood. And the existing infrastructure is supporting and adequate for the site. The proposed use of the liquor package store does not incorporate features which were prohibited by the text change, such as the bars and windows or any additional lighting. So those issues would not be worrisome for this or for this site. And no features are necessary to minimize any adverse impacts to the adjacent properties. And lastly, the proposed use is in conformance with the general commercial zoning district. This completes staff's.
Okay. That information on the record. Let's move to item 3B, which is let the applicant, if he's present, to please come up and share your information about your project. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Desai. We have Potter's Liquors. Once again, I've been with the retail business since 15 years for the others traveling as well. Just want to base with you. There's a 2650 square feet on those stores, and I appreciate that you allow me to open the package stores. And I appreciate it. If you have any questions.
Good. I appreciate those comments. Thank you, sir. That information on the record. Does staff have any wrap-up comments at this point?
No, sir.
At this point, okay. Move to item 4 in our collective agendas, which will permit anyone care to do so to enter into the record a comment or statement either in support of or in opposition to this proposed zone request. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to enter into the record a comment, statement, or testimony regarding this proposed zoning request? For the third and final time, for the purpose of the record, before I move forward in the agenda, is there anyone in the audience who would like to enter into the record a comment, statement, or testimony regarding this proposed zone change for a CUP? Hearing none, let's move down to item 5 on our collective agendas, which will let the Council, Planning Commission, and staff continue the conversation with their input and comments. Let's begin with Dr. Carbone for Council.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm kind of surprised there's no public comment. I guess it maybe school's out in the summertime because the property right across the street, grocery store was going that was going to sell beer and wine. Got the PTA and all kinds of uproar, and now right across the street we're talking about selling hard liquor and there's no comment. So I'm guessing we're going to hear after this meeting. I would hope that we'll get a little bit of feedback. I don't know if this is the right place. But that's all my comments for now, Mayor.
Councilor Moore.
I don't really have a problem with this, but I can see going forward we're really going to have to start scrutinize these packaged liquor stores, because it seems like just about every week somebody's in front of us trying to open up another liquor store somewhere. So I think going forward this is going to be something that we have to look at very, very carefully.
Thank you, Mayor. So kind of there was a comment made earlier about the gas stations, and some years ago, or maybe about a year and a half ago, we put in place the CUP, or we changed up the CUP process because of the abundance of gas stations. Specifically, there were 2 gas stations on Pearland Parkway right next to each other, and we said, hey, let's do something about this before we have a city full of gas stations. Councilmember Moore kind of just mentioned it to a certain extent, but I mean, if we look at this, and if you can pull up that map again, if you don't mind, the map that you pulled up at the beginning, it's one thing for gas stations, and like Councilmember Carbone just mentioned, everyone complained about a store, but we're going to start getting liquor stores every mile. And look, I voted for it as well, and I voted for, or hopefully one day we will have the ability to overcome the 5149 rule in this city. But at the same time, there's a lot of kids in this city. I'm not against liquor stores, but I'm against them in abundance. And within a mile, I mean, that's essentially, 3 liquor stores in a mile, and I don't know what's going to happen with the one that already put a coming soon sign on the Pearland Parkway, HEB. So they've already guaranteed, or at least they think they're going to be approved. But anyways, in my mind, we do have to watch this, and we need to be very conscious of what we're doing and where we're placing these stores. I think it's too many. We couldn't help the 2 that are right across the street from each other because they came on the same meeting, and so everyone understood that and kind of echoed the same comments. But in this case, I don't know. I fear what is going to happen if we continue down this path. Like I said, gas stations is one thing. I don't really have a whole bunch to say on it. I'm probably going to be a no to the gas station, but to this, it's looking like a no as well.
Okay, Councilmember Orr, no?
I'll go slightly different. I actually voted against the packaged liquor stores because I was more concerned with the 5149 ruling and would rather see those entertainment establishments. And I talked to the people that put together the package, and multiple people asked them to include the 5149, and it just didn't happen. So, but I've also stated multiple times, and I do agree, I voted against the CUP on gas stations for the same reason. I don't think it's the government's job to dictate what the market does and what the market doesn't do. What I do feel will happen, and maybe in this strip center first, if you look at the history of businesses that come in and come out of that over the past 20 odd years, you're going to have liquor stores open, you're going to have liquor stores close. The population just, I don't think, can support it. And we had that with gas stations if you go back way before my time on council, but you had several open, you had them closed. To me, the good thing with a packaged liquor store is you don't have pumps, you don't have tanks. It's a whole lot easier to come into that space and just put new different shelving in and sell something else out of it. So to me, I'm a small government free market guy, and let's let it do its thing.
Go for it. Councilmember Little?
I kind of agree with what my councilman on the other side of the mayor said. We seem to be becoming a city of liquor stores, and the fact that this one is right across the street from a church that's been there for quite a long time, I'm probably going to have some issues with this. So that's all I have.
Okay. Councilmember
Thank you, Mayor. I'm kind of in between. I do believe in the free market. The market should dictate what happens, but the reason we wanted this as a CUP is because we want to take a closer look at this when they're in sensitive areas. I'd say across the street from a church, within proximity of a school, that's a sensitive area. I do believe that Councilmember Carbone is correct in that it may not have brought the attention of the families and neighbors in the area, but I plan to reach out to them, get their opinion, because I think it's really up to them what they want to live next to. If it wasn't across the street from the church, I probably wouldn't have much issue. But I think they have a right, and that's the reason why we have it as a CUP. They have a right to voice their opinion. So I would say it's very unlikely that all 3 of those liquor stores, potentially 4 of those liquor stores, would survive. It's not mine to dictate who provides the best service or who's going to be able to win the market. But if I were putting a liquor store and I saw that map, I might rethink what I'm doing. But as of right now, I can't say I'm going to be a yes. I can't say I'm going to be a no. I'm going to have to reach out to the people affected by it and get their thoughts.
Well, my quick answer is no on there, but well aware of the property there. But I think it's like the other council members said. We've got package stores coming in all over the place. And I think that's what makes number 4 or 5 that's coming into the city, and then you got 2 on the other side of right there, Friendswood on our property line with them. You got Pearland Parkway, you've got Cullen, you got Telephone Road. So you got about 9 or 10 in the area already. This property has had a lot of different things in it over the past years, and had some problems with the property down there, and backup of raw sewage in that property years ago. And then we actually bought that little cut coming in on Liberty there off of 518, and I think we got took to the cleaners when we had to buy that from the group there. But I'm not going to let that make any of my decision. My decision is no for a package store at that location or any package store from now on.
Okay, that information is record. Mr. Chairman?
Well, it seems to me if you want to get tanked, you either fill your tank at a gas station, or we're beginning to be all these liquor stores. I looked at it pretty heavy because I know some of the people that are probably going to be upset. They've been on vacation. But I live right there at Dixie Farm Road and 518, and within 15 minutes of my house, I can get to 8 liquor stores. To me, that's just too much. You know, I'm not against drinking. You know, what people want to do, that's fine and dandy with me. I'm not against having a beer or having a drink. I'm in no way, shape, or form. But I just feel like that's just too many. And Pearland does not want to become known as, like the mayor said, a city of gas stations or a city of liquor stores. And that's exactly what we look like. We've just got so many now. We've got, which now I heard that we have one possibility coming in at HEB, so that even adds another one in there. I don't have as much heartburn at one that's in a really nice area and stuff, but some of these are going in areas that are old establishments, and what I've seen when they go in old establishments, they don't look upscale. They don't hold the appearance that you would hope that they would. So I'm definitely a no on this.
For me, I think this has been an interesting one because it goes to the heart of whether or not we actually see value in having a city that focuses on planning and zoning versus letting the market dictate what should go where and how that plays out. And at least for the year and a half I've been on the commission, I think it's the liquor store phenomenon that's really made me look at it the most to see where we are. And the Pearland voters did say they wanted liquor stores, and we know that, but they didn't say they wanted 100 liquor stores. They want a certain number of them for access, and it's up to us to figure out what that number is and where they should go and what's the right amount and what's too much. So right now, I'm probably inclined to vote against this because I'm not comfortable that we've actually answered that question for ourselves. What's too much, what's the right amount, and where should they be? I think we're kind of just doing these all as one-offs. You know, one comes along, we make an individual decision rather than actually plan our city and say, where would we want these? What makes sense? And then kind of make our decisions around a choreographed, sensible, thoughtful process. Thanks.
I think what Councilman Carbone said about people being out on vacation, and I think people would be upset if we voted on this and not having the community's input. So I would say no right now, too.
I'll just wait till we have our meeting.
I'll kind of echo what Councilmember Ordino said a little bit. At least with a liquor store, when it goes out of business, it's just shelves. It's not environmentally impacted tanks, gas tanks, and
That's plus.
Monitoring wells and all the other things that come in with gas stations that go out of business, like the one on 518 and 35.
I guess the only comment I can add is that the CUP goes with the property.
It doesn't have anything.
So if a liquor store comes in and begins to fail, maybe another liquor store comes in within the time frame. We don't get a better business out of that most of the times. What is the standard for liquor stores across Pearland? I don't know. It hasn't been defined. So it's up to everybody to give their opinion, and my opinion of this one is a no. That's all, Mayor.
That completes your comment on
Yes, sir.
that? Okay, does staff have any wrap-up comments at this point?
No, sir.
Good. Let me move to item number 6. Let me adjourn this docket public hearing for CUP 17-0003. Let us remember that we're talking about changing the zone of the property, not the actual construction of anything on that property yet. But if you change the zone and it's permitted and it's appropriate and it's going to be a good marketing move, I think it would probably be built. So that's something we need to look at pretty carefully. Moving to another standalone docket public hearing. Conditional use permit 17-00011. I'll ask the chairman of the planning commission to read into the record the purpose of this hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request of William Lacombe, applicant owner, for approval of a conditional use permit CUP to allow for a dwelling 4-family quadruplex in the Old Town Site mixed-use OTMU zoning district on approximately 0.1922 acres of land. General location is 2543 and 2545 South Texas Avenue.
Okay, that information in the record. Let's move to item 3 on our collective agendas. Application information case summary. 3A is staff report.
Okay, this is for CUP 17-00011, 2543 and 2545 South Texas Avenue. This is undeveloped property located within our downtown area. It's currently zoned Old Town mixed use, which is intended to promote mixed uses and higher density of development. Proposed development is for a 4-unit multifamily townhouse-style structure. And the surrounding area includes a mix of single and two-story, single-story family and two-story multifamily structures. This is the aerial map. You can see it's at the corner of South Texas and East Walnut. This is the zoning map, again showing the Old Town mixed use. And then this is our future land use plan map, showing the property within the village district. This is the site plan that was provided. You can see the 4 units and the continuous open space within this side property over there. So this is one of the site renderings. This is another view. And this is another view inside. This is a view looking north. This is a view looking east. This is a view looking south. And this is a view looking west. Prior to the JPH, staff has not received any return notices, either in opposition or proposing or in support of the conditional use permit. Again, this is our conformance table. Generally, everything is positive. It meets the village district description. The thoroughfare plan has sufficient width. The Old Town mixed use zoning is consistent. Use is consistent with the Unified Development Code. The property is platted, and the subject property has access to appropriate utilities. And this is the criteria for approval for conditional use permit. And staff recommends approval of the requested CUP for the dwelling 4-family quadruplex on the approximate 0.1922 acre site for the following reasons. It meets the village district category for the future land use plan. is generally consistent with the Old Town mixed use zoning district, its purpose and regulations. Proposed use is compatible with and preserves the character and integrity of adjacent developments. The site has a 6-foot wooden fence between the residences and the lift station. And then it has metal fences towards the front yard for each of the units. And then landscaping is provided along the front and on the east between the last unit and the lift station. 2 parking spaces are provided for each of the units within the garage, and then there are 2 additional spaces on the lot. If the garages are utilized for storage, then a parking issue may occur as the streets are not designed for on-street parking. The proposed use has 4 units would not generate enough traffic to require incorporation of roadway adjustments or traffic control devices. And the proposed use incorporates effects to minimize any adverse effects or visual impacts. Generally, it meets the standards of the Old Town Mixed Use Zoning District and requires no variation or proposes no variation from that district. This completes staff's report.
That information in the record, let's move to item 3B, which will let the applicant make a presentation. There it is. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. And with your height, I think the mic is about right for you.
I think I'm going to lower it.
Oh, you're going to lower it. Come on.
My name is William McComb. I live in Chestnut Creek Way, just down the street here in Pearland. We've lived in that area for about 15 years. And so I've also been a real estate agent in the state of Texas for about 15 years. So my wife and I own this property, and thank you for considering our request tonight for the multifamily unit. It is currently zoned OT and U for mixed use. That does allow institutional government business uses. It also can be used for residential today for townhomes. So as it sits today without a conditional use permit, we could put 3 townhomes on it. Those townhomes would sit north and south. Chose not to do that because it would mean we would build on the lot line, which is actually allowed today. So what we propose is a 4-unit building, which would run east to west and would actually be away from the one house. So there is only one house that borders this property. On the north side, is actually on the east side is actually a lifting station, which doesn't always smell great. So we're trying to improve that area with the building there. But there are no other houses because this is on a corner lot. To the west, there is one apartment building. That apartment building actually has parking that faces the street there in Texas. As Mark mentioned, we're planning on having no parking that faces the streets. The parking will all be within the lot, mainly within garages. So when you pass by there, you won't see 10 cars parked around. You will maybe see 2. And those 2 spots will be well within the interior of the lot. 8 of the spots will be within the garages. They are being built, as you mentioned, townhome style, so that we're not having apartments sitting on top of each other. Each unit will get 2 parking spaces. They will go directly into their unit, and then there are 4 of those that sit next to each other. That's it. And so the last thing I'll mention, like I said, we are putting it on the 2 southernmost lots. The northernmost lot, which has a house bordering it, we would use for the driveway, and therefore hopefully impact the one neighbor that lives there now. And again, as it sits, we can go to those lot lines, but we choose not to leave that 25-foot driveway on that area. So I want to say one thing too. We did receive some feedback from Martin on the elevations. I apologize, those weren't our final renderings. The intent was just to give an idea of where the building would sit. I submitted 2 additional sets, and we have all intentions of making something that's of value, and the real estate agent understand that, and making sure the curb appeal is there. I obviously want people to want to live there, and I've submitted some additional which show a mixture of stucco and stone, as well as awnings and appropriate landscaping. So we'll obviously comply with UDC in terms of windows and landscaping, those things, and have all intentions of making something that accommodates that area. And so just in conclusion, really, we're proposing a residential area. I think it'll be the most compatible, at least impactful to that neighborhood as it is today. Okay, thank you.
Okay, appreciate those comments. Thank you. Does staff have any wrap-up comments at this point?
No further comment.
Okay. Let's move to item 4 on our collective agendas, which will let anyone who'd care to do so to enter into the record a comment or statement, either in support of or in opposition to this proposed request. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to enter into the record a comment, statement, or testimony regarding this proposed zone request for CUP? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to enter into the record a comment, statement, or testimony regarding this request for a zone change for a CUP? For the third and final time, for the purpose of the record, before I move forward in the agenda, is there anyone in the audience who would like to enter into the record a comment, statement, testimony, or just talk a little bit? Hearing none, let's then move to item number 5 on our collective agendas, starting with our city council. Councilmember Carbone.
No comment, Mayor.
Councilmember Moore.
No comment, Mayor.
Councilmember Reed.
No comment.
Councilmember Ardno.
Living in the area, I don't know what else is going to go there. I know what the plans are. I know what the vision is. Let's be honest, not many people want a large, mid-sized, single-family home in the Old Town site. I found one I loved, and I wouldn't live anywhere else. Part of the reason I love it, part of the reason I moved there was I don't have a MUD, I don't have an HOA, I don't have government. I have the city, and I have a diverse development around me that I love. Personally, I would love to see it as a single-family home or 2 single-family homes instead of a quadplex, but the lift station is definitely an issue. The mobile home park behind me doesn't bother me. A lift station might bother me if I saw that in my next door to me, knowing what comes along with the lift station. So I just want to say thank you for developing in the Old Town site.
Okay, Councilman Little.
Well, I think I'm going to be a yes on this. If you could see from north, south, east, and west, everything was pretty much an eyesore in the area. There is a fourplex right across South Texas Avenue, so I think it fits in nicely there, but I think it'll be a nice addition to the area. I drive that street just about every day, and so I'll be supporting it.
Perez.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm in support of it. If you want to develop it next to a lift station, more power to you. But I literally drove it the other day, and I saw the empty tract, and I thought it was a good spot for a multifamily unit, something like what's across the street. But looks like you're looking to develop something a little higher scale. Maybe it'll be a trigger for other developers in and around the area to do the same. So definitely for it.
That's where Owens.
I really don't have a problem with it, Mayor. Being next to the lift station, if you lose power, at least that's probably the first area that's going to come back on.
Very good point. I had not thought about that.
That's true. Very true.
Okay, we've
next to a Pookie plant. Yeah, it's a lift station right there.
Looking at the drawing of that, it looks kind of like it's. Sure would be nice if it had some masonry involved in it, so there would be a more attractive facility there, because all that is going to be expanded into it, and it is a high-use roadway. There's going to be a lot of visibility up and down that roadway. It'd be nice to have an attractive-looking forced family a quadplex, I think we call that, isn't it? A quadplex. I think it'd be nice that it would have something that would add to that particular area. That's part of the Old Town side, and that's something that would maybe sent a good quality message of the area if it was pretty well attractive from the exterior at least, with something more than just look like shiplap out front. With that information in the record, let's move to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Commissioners? No comments, Mayor.
Okay. Does staff have any wrap-up comments at this point?
Yes, sir.
Good. Let me move to item number 6 on my agenda, which let me adjourn this docket public hearing for conditional use permit CUP 17-00011. And that ends all of our joint public hearings. At this point, we're now moving to a special hearing. A little late in the game, but it was scheduled for 7 o'clock, but we'll press on. We have a joint public hearing, and the purpose of the workshop is to propose development of a 2409 and a 2421 Max Road for a boat and RV storage development location on the east side, Max Road at 2409 and 2421. This is really the agenda for divider section 1. And at this point, I'll request a staff report.
So the format of the workshop, staff will provide the applicant with a revised list of comments generated from tonight's discussion. The applicant will then have time to make adjustments to their plan before making an application for a joint public hearing, similar to that we saw earlier tonight. The tentative joint public hearing date would be October 16th of this year, 2017. Again, this is a workshop for 2409 and 2421 Max Road for a boat and RV storage development. The site is on the side of Max Road. So the PD proposes to have a base zoning of office professional, which would then have the added use of RV and boat storage facility. Currently, the site is made up of 2 properties, and the zoning is SR12. The proposed use is most relatable to bus or truck storage, which would not be permitted within the office professional zoning district. So this would be a use that would need to be added in by right. The proposed improvements are a 30-foot landscape strip matching the corridor overlay district, which Max Road is not in the corridor overlay district, so they're going to go above and beyond the 6-foot requirement. The rear 9.1 acres would be restricted to the single use, which would be the boat and RV storage. It would follow all of the development requirements of the office professionals in the district. The storage facility would be set back more than 250 feet from Max Road. Boat and RV storage would be screened by the future retail development. And then the PD proposes additional enhancements in addition to all of the requirements of the unified development. So the aerial map generally shown here. This is the zoning map. As you can see, it's SR12. This is the future land use plan. It shows the property to be low density residential. This is the proposed site plan. The access would come in from the north side, which would be here to the back area 1 as shown on the site plan for the boat and RV storage. It's showing a 25 or 30 foot buffer on the rear and 25 on the side and 25 on the north side as well. These were the examples of facade treatments or buildings that would be placed in the rear for the RV and boat storage. As far as staff comments on the plan development, it does not appear that the current site layout meets the 20% open space, which is part of the design criteria for approving a plan development. More detail is needed on the site layout, the building materials, and phasing plan. And then a buffer would be needed for the adjacent existing residential residence that's on the site. This completes the staff's report.
Complete your staff report, okay. And moving into our particulars on this particular one, we do have a applicant here. I'd like to have him come forward and make a presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is George Gartner.
Would you introduce yourself to start off with?
My name is George Gartner. I own Gartner Coatings. We're on Max Road. We've been here about 17 years now. It's a 10-acre facility that we have. I had an opportunity earlier this year to buy 10 acres adjacent to my property. And we're here tonight to present the PD, but I think the PD has already been presented. We don't have to go over much more detail. I'd like to say something about the PD. Is that when we were in pre-meetings, we were asked to do a PD to get a zoning change. And I didn't know exactly how to accomplish that, so the person that I turned to was Lotta Frisnero. She is the one that presented this PD or did it for us. So there's quite a bit of detail to it. There's more detail to the PD than I usually say. Anyway, what I'd like to do is give you guys just a quick history of how this came about. Julia Ross is my neighbor next to us that owns the 10 acres. She's probably a late 70s widow. She lives by herself. We've been neighbors ever since we moved there. And she came to me probably in January and said, George, would you be interested in buying my property? And I said, I mean, what's this about, Mr. Ross? I mean, why do you want me to buy a property? And she said, George, the taxes have become so expensive that I can't afford to pay them. I said, well, I mean, I'd buy your property, but what am I going to do then? Just pay your taxes? So we kind of brainstormed on it for a little bit and decided if we were going to buy her property, that I would have to come up with something to develop the property, to do something with it. So that's the reason for the zone change. Now, there is a stipulation to this whole thing, is that she said, I want to live on the property until I die. So then we come to the city and say, okay, I'll write up the contract. But that'll be part of the stipulation, that the city's going to have to approve it, whatever manner that y'all do that. And then I have to conduct a feasibility study and just see if, in fact, this makes sense. But I want y'all to understand that what we're trying to do here is really upgrade the property, do it the way that you want us to do it. What we have in the PD is put a strip center on the front of it, to do something like, this is across the street from those soccer fields, do something like, I don't know, pizza parlor, ice cream parlor, something that's neighborhood friendly, and then behind that to do the storage line. Be done in phases.
Good.
So anyway,
that completes your report.
Completes my report.
Good, thank you. I appreciate your comments. Good. That information is a record for a workshop. Let us proceed now to council discussion on this item. Starting with Councilmember Owens, what's on this?
Mayor, I really don't have a problem with it. I'm just glad to see it not on 518. I think we got enough storage places up and down 518, especially on toward the west side. We got a new one that went in not too long ago. It's only 100 yards from the other one. So I don't really have a plan with that, and I'm sure that George will do something well out there in that area and maybe keep the lady's house out there and what have you on the property. So it's in an area that the visibility is not that great in that, and if you do something to dress up the front and the back, I would imagine you're going to lose some part of the land for detention out there in that area, and I think that was a subject a few years ago on the parcel of land next to you that we entertained in that for a little while. So that I don't have anything else to say on that.
Okay, Councilman Perez.
Thank you, Mayor. My opinion is that I don't think that this is an appropriate development for a PD. The tool is misused in this condition. We have a zone that would allow something like this, even if it's a conditional use. I think that we should merit the use in the zone, by itself. We get into PDs and it just becomes too difficult. Too difficult on the developer, too difficult on staff. Get a lot of back and forth. We wipe the slate clean on the zone. We can ask them for anything they want. They can ask for anything we want. And be honest with you, it's a condition like this, I just don't see how that's not a backwards way of getting spot zoning. I mean, we're gonna, if these guys come in and they do this PD and then, the PD doesn't work out for them and they want to sell the land, somebody else wants to go do something else and they're locked into that PD and they got to do something else on that PD. They got to rewrite the entire PD where we start all over. Like I said, I've said this before, I think the PD should be reserved only for uses and developments that are unique, where our zoning does not allow it, like the town center, like Ivy District, like something that is, we would not write a zone for that because they're so esoteric, they will rarely happen. With respect to this use, look, it requires zone change. There's a lot of funky zones going on in here, but I think generally, our future land use plan shows up to this area being commercially viable. I think we're extending a little bit into the R1, or the SR12, which is a residential zone on our future land use plan. I think that's, we're contiguous with what our future land use plan says should be commercial. I think I'm fine with it. If it goes to PD, I'll vote on the merits of the PD, but I really don't like seeing PDs used for this stuff. They're expensive to do. They have to hire somebody, and it's just for a use. And it's just to allow for something that's relatively simple. And I would prefer that we have not gone down this path. Hopefully we'll get to a zone change. Hopefully, I think GC would allow for this use with CUP. It's a few more steps, but hopefully we can get there. If not, then I'll do what I can on the PD.
What would you recommend?
That's what I recommend. Go to the zone change that either would allow the use by right or allow the use by conditional use. I just don't. The PD is just too. There's too many unknowns. There's too much effort and work and cost to put together a PD just to get it to this point without any understanding or knowledge of whether they're going to get the use. A zone change, it takes it takes the same amount of time, but they're not required to do as much because we can't put the site conditions on there. The conditional use, hopefully after this, we'll talk about what we're going to do to modify that. But just wiping the slate clean on the zoning just so we can do this one specific use and still have the applicant have the risk of being told no after he's put in all that work, put together a PD, address comments to staff, address comments that planning and zoning, address comments that council all make, and then still end up, after all that work, all that time, all that expense, still have a no. I don't think that's, again, appropriate use of that tool. So I'm not supportive of us going down the PD path. I would rather see this as a zone change.
Little.
No comment, Mayor.
I want to echo that. I don't understand the PD for this. There's zoning out there that would allow it. PD just allows us to get in and muddy the waters up some more. I mean, 20% open space in a storage yard, it doesn't exist. It's all open space in some sense when nothing's being stored there. Grass medians, you're trying to pull boat trailers and RVs in. I mean, it's going to end up as mud. So, you know, I agree. To me, it's a straight zone change and to go forward. Another comment somewhat off the topic of the zone change, but kind of what brought everything up to possibly purchase. There is a method the state allows for property taxes to be deferred, and it would be paid at the time the property was sold at her death, which would be another option, and she could stop paying property taxes tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So just so you are aware. With interest with interest at the time that the payment goes back. But if she has no one to leave the property to, who cares? Okay, well, somebody's there to leave it.
Does that complete your comments?
Yes.
Good. I'm not going to be a very good customer. I got rid of my 22-foot sailboat, my 24-foot Coachman camper, so I'm out of that business. But, you know, if you have those facility type piece of equipment, you need a place for them to be, you need a place to put them. And we are very concerned of people parking them in their driveway. So I think that would be an option for people who have those facilities and I think we need to be a little more careful about restricting people from using the driveways for the parking lot. It'd be a good place. And I think understand from your presentation that parking portion would be back from the roadway, so it would not be a visible thing looking into a bunch of campers and parking, whatever it might be. So I think that's a plus for that. Councilmember Reed, do you have any comments on this?
No comment, Mayor.
Councilmember Moore.
I think that's a great addition to that area, so I wish you well with your boat and RV storage.
And Councilmember Carbone.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. When I saw this as a PD, it left me scratching my head, wondering why. That being said, we're at this point. I think it's a good development. I think it makes sense. I don't know that I want to go back to the drawing board and go back to a straight zone change when he's gone this far. But no, I think it makes sense, and for that area, it works well.
Good. I appreciate that. That information in the record. Why don't we move to ask the chairman of the planning commission to have input into the process.
No, for me, I agree with Councilman Carbone. While the PD's not ideal, it sounds like he went in that direction based on a recommendation from city staff. Right? So I think to kind of give him a switch and say do a zone change is kind of like an example of the city wasting a resident's time when they're trying to get something good done. So while I'd rather see it be a zone change, I would be in favor of approving it as a PD because that's where it is today.
Okay.
I agree with David and with Commissioner Carbone. I think it's a great addition for that area out there. You got a subdivision right there behind it. With a lot of these neighborhoods and stuff, putting boats and putting trailers and stuff like that in front of the houses is a violation of their HOA. So I think it'd be a good addition for out there.
I've only got a couple comments along the line of use. We have a couple businesses within the city of Pearland. They're both in GB zoning districts. I would ask staff to look at those uses that are currently GB with the same use on them, if that's a conditional use under GB zoning district or not. I definitely would think this could be a straight zone change. There's a scatter of GB, GC, OP in the area. Along the comment of city staff, I'm not certain that city staff, the person that did this was on city staff, or they're a contractor to the developer, or to the owner. So I can't say that staff recommended a PD. So I definitely did not, when I read it, didn't like the PD either. And the usage is definitely in high demand. If you need to see that, go outside the city limits of Pearland toward Friendswood and around our city limits along Bailey, and you'll see the demand. So it's good to see this inside the city. And if the UDC doesn't specifically address boat and RV storage, maybe that could be an addition. And looking through the UDC tables, it's not specifically listed. You have to read between the lines. So we've done some of that reading between the lines on 2 properties. Extra space storage and cube storage both have a product, both covered and enclosed RV storage that we can use as an example, and possibly make this a straight zone change and a little simpler on the applicant.
Okay.
If I can make just one more suggestion, I think when we have workshops like this, one of the purposes is that an applicant kind of can get the feedback and kind of know what they have to do in order to get it through the system successfully. And I'm trying to picture myself being in the applicant's seat right now, and he's hearing some people say PD, some people say zone change, and I'm wondering if he's saying to himself, so what do I have to do? I don't know if he's, I'm certainly not trying to read his mind, but I don't know if he's actually kind of collected what his next steps are based on feedback and output of this workshop.
And Mayor, I would kind of echo that. I think that what the purpose of this workshop is to give them clear direction. And we may believe that we're in agreement, but I don't think on the other side. And look, I've been on that side. I wouldn't know what to do subsequent to hearing everybody. My concern is this: the PD is not ready. What they presented here is not ready for approval. It's going to take a lot of work. If we're talking about, in my opinion, getting this to a use that we all seem fairly comfortable with, I think the zone change is going to be quicker. They can get to a zone change without a whole lot of site plan conditions here pretty quickly. Hopefully the CUP process will be more smooth. The PD can be long and difficult, and they may not be able to get the application through in an expedited manner. What's going to be required of them is they have to present a site plan that works, because the site plan on the PD is going to be enforceable. All of the conditions are enforceable, and they're going to have to get ironed out with staff. That's their responsibility. That's going to take a while, and it's going to take a lot of expense. But if we went to a zone change, they could probably be here, I would say, with the same application at the next JPH for us to go through on a zone change. Go through on a zone change, get to the point where it can approve a zone change. It's going to take two readings of council, but we're there already. They already do have to have 2 readings of council to approve the JPA or approve the PD, because it is a zone change, and then go through the CUP, and hopefully that'll go quickly. I would kind of highly recommend, if we could all come to a consensus, that we come to a consensus on the zone change. But if we want to do the PD, I'll be supportive of it, but I think that's going to be a long, expensive path for these guys.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. Yes, you got to wrap up.
One thing you said, Trent, that I didn't realize, but I really appreciate what you said. Because if I go down the path of the PD, and all of a sudden this doesn't work, and I have to back out of this for some reason, or I'm not back out, but I'm stuck with it, and now I try to sell it, and I've got this PD that's wrapped around it. And then you mentioned if we just do the zone change, I mean, at least I've got just it's zoned just this general whatever. Makes it easier for me to sell it. To me, that makes a lot more sense. So I appreciate you talking.
Good, I appreciate it.
Mayor, can I ask staff real quick, what underlying zone would this need to be for this proposed use, either by right or by additional CUP.
The bus or truck storage, which is what we were basing it off of, is conditional within general commercial and permitted by right within M1 and M2.
So I think, just taking the temperature of the room, I think we would all lean towards GC with this CUP, and that would get to the right answer, and that'd get, I think, to a better answer.
Yep.
I guess in the efforts of trying to give some clear direction, is that, I see other councilmen nodding their heads, is everybody comfortable if we give clear guidance of bring us a GC with a future CUP, then I think that makes sense?
Does to me.
Yep.
I just want to clarify that the CUP was required.
Yeah.
Based on.
Yeah.
Okay, just one.
Yeah. CUP would be required.
Yeah.
The purpose of this item one is to have the council and planning commission have some discussion about the particular proposed application for a permit. And this will come back to us as either a public hearing or at some point in the future, I believe it would be the process. So this is a chance to kind of clear up some ideas and find out what we're talking about. And I think it's a good idea for us to do this on occasion where we have these particular issues like this. And so we'll be seeing this again in more formal, on more formal status, like a joint public hearing where you go through the full process of discussion. And when that happens, well, we'll be back visiting this again. So thank you for here, at least giving us a chance to find out what it is we're looking at and talking about. And so now, this, item 2 on our agenda was a Council, Planning Commission, and Zoning Commission input and discussion regarding revisions to the conditional use permit CUP approval process. And as we move to that, I'd like to ask Matt if he wanted to do the presentation from staff position, and then we'll have Councilmember Carbone as chairman of the committee that we put together, and maybe could add to the conversation and address and clarify some of the issues that we still have hanging out there. So,
thank you, Mayor and Council and Planning Commission members.